Hey, 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 it is Monday, Magnificent Monday. I caught him. I caught the tiger. And this tiger is going to be appropriate today. We're going to talk about some things here. See him right here? That's the tiger you saw do the swirl right there behind that backdrop. Mark Gassert, Sales Concepts, and broadcasting from the peachiest place on the planet. This is Mark's message, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, where it is always happening. It's always peachy, regardless of what it's doing outside. Because mentally, it's just a peach day. Trust me. So, with all that, gonna give my quick shout outs here to the virtual streamers of the stratosphere, Grow Live Nation, emerging sales winners, diehards, Megamind, and anybody else that has an organization out there that's into positivity. We're welcome all. And thank you so much for joining us. We even have someone that's shouting at us, hey, 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 and look who it is. Yes, indeed, Mark Rodriguez. Yes, sir. That's the man with a plan, the guy that makes it happen, makes it sing. With all that, one of the things I want to talk to you about here today on Mark's message, and you're going to maybe have some fun with this, but I've got to share a pic or two about this, which I think is kind of cool. So let me scroll down here. And while you take a look at he was the consummate showman. And my subject for today, I had to really think about this, was and it still is. Whoops, we lost the audio. Sorry there, Mark. Thank you. It's because I went through a pick, and I apologize for that. So what happened was with PT Barnum, and the reason I have this bad boy here, if you saw the beginning of my backdrop here with the tiger, is consummate showman, politician, philanthropist, you know, political infrastructure, entrepreneur, you name it, he's done it all. But the reason I picked him, has selling really changed? Okay, so think about this. What has we been hearing for years? It's changed. You hear about this, COVID, etc. What would PT Barnum say today? And I'm going to share you some quotes about all this. But thanks to today's technology, which I'm using here is, StreamYard, I'm live streaming. You have technology and resources that buyers can instantly communicate and access information faster than ever. But it still goes back to the age old question, has selling really changed? So, you have to be prepared for your customers. And, you have savvy prospects, customers, probable purchasers. Some of us call them that. And, selling hasn't changed as much as we'd like to think it has. Um, the last time I checked, you can use social media tools, and whether it's Hippo Video, whether it's this particular platform, whether, StreamYard, whether you go on LinkedIn, Instagram, and do video presentations that way, whatever your preference is, when you break it down its purest form, selling is based on human nature, and human nature really hasn't changed. It's kind of like you could make the analogy of rubbing two sticks together to make a fire. And I think when you break it down in its purest form, two things come to mind: honesty, authenticity. And then we go back to those three things I keep harping on. Can I trust you? Can you help me? And do you care for me? So when you get through all that, and I'm going to pull up some things here about uh, Mr. Barnum here, which I think we'll find interesting. And seeing how I am broadcasting here from the peachiest place on the planet. So with all that, I'm just going to share a couple things here. And you can tell me what you think. But here's something that Barnum put out, and which I thought was kind of cool. And he said, as you can see there, noble is the art of making others happy. P.T. Barnum. So he wasn't such a bad guy after all. There's a couple quotes in here that are probably going to blow your mind that you may or may not know of, but we'll get into them. And I just thought I'd share these with you. So we're talking about like sales, how different it is. Here's another one I just wanted to share. Um, Nobody ever lost a dollar by underestimating the taste of the American public. Again, the consummate showman that he was. And here's another one by Barnum. There's one in here that you're going to ultimately remember. Unless a man enters upon the vocation intended for him by nature and best suited to his peculiar genius, he cannot succeed. That is very profound. And this is the one that everybody remembers Barnum for. And there's some other things I'm going to bring out here. There's a sucker born every minute. Now, Barnum was not a bad guy. He lived for the ripe old age of 89, 1810 to 1891. And again, it was Phineas Taylor Barnum, the ultimate showman, businessman, political mogul, entrepreneur. He was even a mayor of Bridgeport, Connecticut. He served 2 terms in the Connecticut legislature from 1865. Now, this is the thing that you're going to find interesting, and we'll get into the sales aspect. This is a little history lesson, and I'm going to share it. Lost audio. Okay. Hey, Mark G. Mark G. I just met the grandfather of possibilities. Oh my, I'm afraid to ask who that is. And hi, Marco. Okay. You can tell me, Robert, but what we're talking about is P.T. Barnum. So, what he did from 1824 to 1854 is he was a Democrat. And then from 1854 to 1891, he was a Republican. Now, here's what's cool about hello, sir. Always good to have you here, Robert. What's cool about him, 13th Amendment of the Constitution, abolished slavery. He was very proactive in that. So the guy was not that bad. But getting back to sales, when we said, has selling changed? What would a guy like Barnum do today with all the tricks of the trade? And I hate using that word, but I'm going to call them sales tools that we have. This is one platform. And he says, Run Klein. Okay, cool. Thank you, Robert. But moving along, what would he do with these type of tools? Whether it would be Instagram, LinkedIn, texting people, and I'm sure picking up the phone. Right, here we go. There it is. What would he do with all this? And, I just find it very interesting when you look at what they had back then. And it all goes back to what people really want in sales is honesty and authenticity, being authentic, real, raw, resilient. That's why there are salespeople. You're never going to get rid of us as much as high tech, how high touch we become. There are those out there that would beg to differ with me, and feel free to chime in. Would you like that burger with onions or onion rings? Absolutely, baby. Robert, that is so true. You can't virtually give you food. It don't work that way. I can't virtually go on a camping trip. I mean, technically you could, but what am I going to do? Rub sticks together and create a virtual fire and then virtually burn my finger? Point being is people want to deal with people. Now, these are tools that open it up, right? And these are all different trends that we're encountering. But if you think you're just going to use Hippo video and that's it for all you email freaks and never pick up the phone, never converse, or have a virtual conversation, like I say, like the Jetsons. And again, since Mark hopped on here, I will tell you this, that live streaming is truly, 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 it's public speaking on steroids. And let's see what Robert says here. I didn't hear someone say always ask a question. You can't say no to. Yeah, and that's true. So Robert just keeps coming at me. And so those are things to think about through this process. And, I just want to share this with everybody. So I felt compelled to get on here. And that's why I picked, uh, P.T. Barnum, because he was to me one of the greatest showmen. And he does, believe it or not. Here's what's cool about him. And if you ever want to check it out, I'll share this with you. He actually wrote a book, The Art of Money, Getting Golden Rules for Making Money. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I have to check that out. I've read about it, but I've never read it from cover to cover. So, and here's the thing. Do you think Barnum struggled? Well, obviously, if you know his story, he did. And, he went through a lot of hurt and he's successful, well known. And that's the whole point of this today, that regardless if you say, has selling changed? And what have we been hearing for the past couple years? And people use COVID as an excuse and this and that. And we got another comment in here. And here we go. This is new to me, but my middle name is Engagement. I need to stay true to this, Mark. And that's true. And that's what people want. And when you say authenticity to me, and when you say get real, get raw, get resilient, and when you have differences of opinion, what Robert just mentioned, that ultimate word, that to me is engagement. So when the customer or even your spouse is disagreeing with you or a friend, that's cool, man, because now you're getting into the form of real engagement. And I know people think I'm weird because I say this all the time, but I'm sitting here going, yeah, dig it. They disagree with me. Now we're going to have a real, real, real conversation. And that's how it's supposed to be. I'm sure politicians thrive on this, because they're always disagreeing with one another. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you here today about, has sales or selling really changed? And there are some people later on my Thursdays I'm going to bring into the fold and, have a little session and bring them in here and do a Mark's message with them and turn it over to them. And I'll let them share with you their trials and tribulations. Some of us have been doing this longer than others. If you remember back to the 80s, we didn't have all these very sophisticated tools. There was no Grow Live Academy. There was, Ken Walls was around, I'm sure, right? But we didn't have all this technology to share with everybody. So, it's neat that we have it, but I don't think you can just use solely one thing or another. You have to use them all as a tool. But I will say, and I still will contend to this day, that if you think you're a very good public speaker, then come on here and go live, grow live, and look at that mic, and it's really will test you a little bit. But always, and I've got to give my shout outs. I'm going to do this, guys. And Brian, please don't hate me. Brian Monahan, uh, Customer Delight 365. Here it is. And today is September 14th. So I got to read a page from this. And Brian, I cannot thank you enough. I know I say this every day, but this is one of the first things I do is pick up. It's almost like becoming my Bible here because I'm like, hey man, what's September 14th got? So now Brian shares this quote with us, rather, I should say. Get closer than ever to your customers. How appropriate since we're talking about selling, right? So close that you can tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. Now, I wonder who in the hell wrote that and was quoted saying that. Excuse me, Steve Jobs, the man himself, Mr. Technology Guru, the late great Steve Jobs. Now, here's what's cool. Brian gives you the quote, gives you the day. This is CD 365, day 257. And what he says is some might say Steve Jobs was arrogant in that thinking you know what's best for others is arrogant. That's not what this quote says, per Brian. It says to get so close to your customers, and you could apply this to anything in life, that you'll know them better than they know themselves. That is cool. Anticipation is the underpinning of creating customer delight. And once again, Brian, I got to say, you knocked it out of the park with that quote. That's beautiful. That's why I love this book. And since I finished that quote, we have a lengthy statement here. And I've got to give my brother here some kudos for putting this out. Yes, I have a friend who is a political scientist, and she does get into heated discussions. But because she is a highly trusted friend, she came to visit us. And that Saturday evening, a transference of knowledge occurred, and I know I can look at politics and smile. I no longer flip out and say things I don't remember because I would also black out when that happened. Now I am often amused by what used to upset me. That is an excellent point, Robert. And as you grow and develop, hey man, that's what it's all about. And Robert, I totally concur because I look at the news and I laugh. I listen to the left. I listen to the right. I listen to the middle. I stay up late at night. I'm just like laughing inside. Um, you can read it later, too big for the screen. No, it's not. And that's why I read it. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And with that, we're talking about being delightful. And what I like about Brian's book is he's constantly challenge you every day. And then, the thing about his book right here is he challenges you and allows you to do your own take. So what I've been doing every morning is I read, and I read that, and I put out my take on it. And I shared it in the different platforms out there, and I just felt compelled to do it. This is a fantastic book. It's not your typical quote and then move on. There's real content in there, and there's a hidden message. And Brian took some time to put it together from 2016 just till recently, so it's well thought out. And as always, guys, I just want to say thank you for joining me. Hey, look at that, Brian. Hey, you know what? Whoops, I didn't mean to bump the camera. Go buy the book if you haven't, really. It's like 14 something. I don't know. You can get it on Amazon. It's really a good book. And look at that. Robert says, I'll buy it tomorrow, payday. That's a beautiful thing. I appreciate that. I know Brian will too. But as always, all my streamers out there, and brethren of the live stream, it's time to back it on down. We're getting about 6:14. Again, this was Mark's message. And like I said, today we talked about has selling changed? What would P.T. Barnum do? I gave you some quotes by Barnum. And with that, there is one I'm going to share. And I always think this is kind of cool of him. Unless a man enters upon the vocation intended for him by nature and best suited to his peculiar genius, he cannot succeed. P.T. Barnum. I think that is very cool. He's full of a lot of quotes. And with that, though, I'm going to tell everybody, but before I go, I got to recognize, hey, thank you, Mark, for the opportunity to engage. Robert, it is a plum pleasing pleasure to have people like you hop on Mark's message. You guys humble me. And like I said, Be humble, be hungry, be helpful. And when you're humble, you know what that means. Hungry is you're constantly learning, trying to further develop. Helpful, hey, there it is. And as always, in Mark's fashion, be a leader, be a friend. Most important of all, really, let's be a service out there. Let's get our eyes off us and help others. And with that, I can't help myself. Last night, I did a baseball game, 2 hours worth. And thank you, Ron. Okay, cool. And with that, we're going to make our approach. And remember this, guys, as you're in the box and the batter's box of life, together, right? Together. If we keep swinging for what? The fences, kaboom! We will knock it out of the park. And with that, I'm going to say on this Monday, a magnificent Monday it was. Continue it into your Monday evening, propel it into having a successful Tuesday. Again, Mark Gassert, Mark's Message, Peachtree Corners, the peachiest place on the planet. I will see you tomorrow.